Hello, beautiful light-filled souls. After I finished the last video about ghosts and other topics, I decided there's just too many stories and I have to continue with this topic in another video. The intent is not to scare, but to empower. I know some stories are a little frightening, but I think that they are meant to empower us with our ability to clear these energies, with our ability to stay in the light, stay in that awareness, and stay in profound gratitude for this mysterious journey that life truly is. So I'm going to start with present day and then work back to the near-death experience. So would love for you to join my spiritual community as well, because we might continue some of these topics in here, and maybe people have heard some of these stories in this community, but I want to openly talk about this on YouTube. So years ago, right before all the news came out about John of God, different people told me to do his protocol for healing. And, I have a condition, Hashimoto's, that I work on in various ways, but I thought I'd give it a shot and see what John of God is about. So I sent my picture in, I got the herbs, and then I knew that I might be visited by a healing spirit. So I went into meditation and I connected with a spirit that showed up. It had a cross across it, very large spirit. It didn't really look like an angel. It just was a spirit that I wondered if this was a doctor spirit, or, I've heard people talk about that on ayahuasca trips. So I asked this spirit, can you heal me? And it said no. And that's one thing that you can do when interacting with spirits, is ask them a question. What's going on here? Why are you here? Start communicating with what you're perceiving, what you're seeing. And then honestly, I just kind of understood in a split second that maybe John of God's spirits were sent to give people some healing, but he was manipulative and was taking people's energy for his own ego and his own power. And this was before, all of that stuff came out about him. So I just told the spirit to go in the name of Jesus. And I don't know why I invoked Jesus at that time, but that meant my Christian upbringing. It just seemed like the right thing to do. And in that moment, the spirit left, it cleared, and I really just said a prayer of absolute clearing and a prayer for anyone who had been wronged by John of God, or anyone who believed that they were being healed and perhaps they were losing energy at the same time by believing in this man. That to me was a powerful moment, because I went with my own experience. I questioned the spirit, and then, a few months later, all that horrible news about John of God came out, and I was really glad that I had not participated in any deeper way with that spirit. So that was a recent, and I wouldn't call that a ghost, but that was just interacting with the spirit. So I would tell people that it's important to slow down, whether they're connecting with an ancestor, whether they are connecting with a spirit, whether they are working with a ghost, and communicate, at this mind telepathy level, just to communicate. So now I'm going to switch way back to the beginning, when these abilities opened up. I never felt ghost in childhood. I wasn't sensitive like that. I mean, I was emotionally sensitive and an intelligent child, but I didn't encounter a lot of supernatural events, even growing up in an evangelical church. In fact, I kind of questioned it. So when I had the experiences that I had right after my near-death experience, it was kind of shocking. So when I had healed up and I was out of the body cast and I returned to UT a year after my experience, I slowly opened up to friends and decided to go out to a party. And I knew that people would be drinking and doing drugs. This is, an Austin party. And I was just in the state of being happy to be alive. So I was there with my water bottle and really kind of removed from the scene, but in awe of, oh, wow, I used to be a part of this scene. And look at how different people look to me now from this space. And then I met a group of lively people, some people I knew, and I was standing around in this circle telling them what had happened to me. And I was enjoying it. Like whenever people tell their near death experience story, usually people light up and uh, they remember something of their own spiritual journey, or they're just interested or excited. It adds a childlike glee to interaction. So I was telling the story in an animated way and connecting with people. And this guy at the periphery of the group came up and heard a few sentences, and something, I would call it a possession, but something inside of him was so revolted by what I was saying that he was literally, it looked like he was picked up and hurled against the wall, and everyone was focused on me. So their backs were kind of to the guy, but he fell against the wall. I mean, he just could not get away fast enough. And it looked as if something within him did not want to hear the story that I was talking about. And I remember thinking, ooh, that's odd. That's really strange. There was something within his own energy or something that possessed him. And this was not a story he wanted to hear from the light. So I realized not everyone would be receptive. Of course, some people would argue from that from a variety of perspectives, from the atheist perspective, from the incredibly dogmatic perspective in any religion, but generally people are open. And what I found throughout the years is that, through word of mouth, different friends who are spiritual would invite me along to do ghost clearings, that I was just kind of the buddy that was invited to do these things because of my near-death experience. And I was happy to participate. It was a fun experience. And that happened, throughout my life when I knew groups of people in my area who were spiritual. What happened that was frightening in the realm of ghost is, and I don't know if this is energy that was left behind, but one time I was taking a nap at a friend's place, and they went out to the grocery store, and they were out for a while, and I woke up and I felt as if I was being choked. And in that moment, I really felt this entity choking me, and it was horrifying. I pulled the lamp out of the dresser beside me, threw it against the wall. The choking was still going on, and then I remembered to connect with the lights and ask this spirit to simply leave. At that point, I was just frightened. And then my friends came back about the time that I had thrown the lamp against the wall. And I told them the story, and they were a little shocked because in that very room, they had rented the house for a really cheap price because someone had died in that bed and they had been choked to death. So there had been no experiences before, but the person who was renting the home was a little freaked out, and it was a husband who had choked his wife and then he shot himself, and so they were buried just down the road. So I don't know if I was connecting with energy that was left behind, just kind of reliving that moment, or if his spirit or her spirit was trying to work this out, or if there was energy that was left behind. But I certainly did a lot of clearing in that room and visualized that energy just moving from that house, both for the sake of the renters and for the sake of not wanting anyone else to experience that. That was the most frightening experience that I've had in that paranormal realm. And I know people will have stories along those lines, but what I have loved about teaching in public schools and telling my near death experience story all these years to students is the moments when students open up and share their ghost stories. And the things that I've heard from students about how they've been protected by grandparents, how they have felt love from that other side. It's been amazing to hear all these stories of real protection from ancestors, and this warning of danger that's coming. So our ancestors and those who love us sometimes do remain in this realm, hoping to contact us, helping to communicate with us, and perhaps they've gone on to the light, but they still, their love, that unconditional love that perhaps they have for their family, they want to center this and help in any way that they can. And I tell stories of how my grandfather and father have helped me from the other side. So I just think that love is the key, and love survives death, and it's an energy that we can feel. And I don't get into a lot of judgment around it. I mainly just want people to know that love survives death, and that it's all that we take with us. So if you're connected to a pet, if you're connected to a loved one, then that love doesn't die. And it's kind of funny, like my friends will joke around with me, and if they're flying somewhere and forget to check in, they'll say, well, you'll know if I passed over anyway, so it doesn't matter if I didn't text. And that's true for so many of us who are sensitive. We are connected on that spiritual level to people that we love and that we care about. So that's what I wanted to add to that discussion of ghosts. And I also want to add, people often ask me, what do spirits out there do in the afterlife? Do they just care about us and focus on us? And no, not at all. Like there's a variety of things, it seems. And I learn the more readings that I do, the more people who ask me to tune in to their ancestors. There's a book called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, which I loved and I found rather accurate in many ways for some souls. There is this exploration. Um, what you experience in a near-death experience, that moment of the life review tends to go on a lot longer for most souls, especially those who are planning to reincarnate, because they very much want to look at every decision that they made, how it affected the world around them, how it affected their loved ones, how it affected them, and what would have happened. It's almost like this, ultimate movie, where, like choose a door, where you look, okay, well, this happened and then this happened. So with every choice you gain and you lose something. And that's in the afterlife, you get to see how it would have played out if you would have made a different choice. And here you just, time can be a great teacher. What you think is right in the moment can in time cause you much pain, because there is no greater distance than time. Tennessee Williams wrote that in Glass Menagerie. And it's true, but I would add that the afterlife gives that freedom and detachment from it. So there are souls that are reviewing their lives, but it's not as painful as one might think. It is like a learning experience. My father, I think I wrote this in the book, called it universe school. And I thought that was really cute, because he wasn't looking only at his life, but he was looking at other lives. And so there's this deep review of, what does it mean to be human? Why did I come here? What did my soul forget? What does it want to do when it comes back? So some souls definitely, once they're there, maybe over here they're kicking and screaming and saying, I'm never reincarnating. But once they get over there, do that review process, feel that detachment, that unconditional love. And time is relative. The amount of time that one soaks in and that unconditional love fuels the soul, perhaps, for that readiness to come back here, that readiness to be a warrior on this plane. And I think we're all warriors, because we're trying to remember our goodness. We're trying to remember our connection to unconditional love. And some people completely forget, and some people forget for a while, remember for a while, lose it, come back to it. And there's a a variety of ways that people forget it. That's why I think discipline, even for near-death experiencers, is important. A meditation practice, a discipline where you are reminding yourself of that light and what can come through. So I'm eternally grateful for people who book time with me, people in my spiritual community, because it's a reminder for me to connect to that light. I'm eternally grateful that there are so many great meditation teachers out there, and that nature is such a great teacher. That was one of the messages from the near-death experience. We live in such a time full of machines, Wi-Fi, a time where we can easily get distracted by information. And I would say that a lot of peace comes from detaching from these things and remembering our connection to nature and our connection to greater peace. So I hope this was informative and interesting. I would love to hear some of your ghost stories. I've been blessed by hearing so many from students over the years. Usually, in younger people, it's their grandparents or, a haunted house, the friend's haunted house that they happen to pick up on energy in. But in the previous video, I talked about some of the New Orleans locations, and that's a very haunted city. I feel like the past, and I wrote this in a poem, just kind of sits down and stays there in New Orleans. There's something about many timelines that don't seem to completely disappear, that seem to be stuck there. And it's a fascinating city, a beautiful city. I was grateful to live there for a while, but anyway, thanks for listening, and I enjoy hearing your comments. May be blessed.